Welcome back to my channel. Here talking about And Just Like That, the Sex and the City reboot, episode 7, titled Sex and the Widow. Like I said last week, I think the show is on an upward trajectory. It's getting better. It's less silly. I mean, it still has its silly moments, but it seems like we're more getting into the meat of a storyline, of a plot that we can kind of sink our teeth into. So what I thought was the most interesting part of this reboot is Miranda's storyline. So I'm going to start with that. So we see that this has time jumped. We go through a couple of seasons. It seems like it might have been maybe 9 months, possibly a year. No, I don't know if it's a year, but it seems like it's been almost a year since Big's death. And I'll get to Carrie in a minute about, where she's at. But I want to talk about Miranda because I think this is really the meat of the episode and of this this reboot. We know that she had sex with Che, Carrie's boss, in Carrie's bathroom last episode or the episode before. And, she's also in this rut in her marriage. And we thought, or at least I thought, that they were going to continue this after that rendezvous because they said, let's keep in touch or DM me. But it sounds like Miranda had DM'd Che, but Che hadn't responded. And so Miranda was feeling like she'd been ghosted. And you see that the angst that she has, the discomfort, and, she and Steve still aren't in a good place. And the interesting thing is, I wonder if Steve knows that they're not in a good place because he's always been very happy-go-lucky and easygoing, but he seems, from the little bit we see of him, he seems like he's content in their marriage. And I don't know if that's a bad thing, but obviously Miranda's not. She tries to have sex with him in the kitchen, and it was cringy. It was very awkward to watch, especially since when you watch the series, the original series, they had a really good sex life. Like, if you remember, that's what kept Miranda kind of tethered to him in the beginning before she developed feelings for him. She kept talking about how good their sex life was. So to see it just dissipate to this awkward interaction where they don't even know how to touch each other it was heartbreaking. Even that goofy look that he had on his face when he was touching her, and almost like a little teenage boy, like it was the first time he touched a woman. It just was, but the germaphobe in me was very impressed that when she told him to touch her down there, he went and washed his hands first. I appreciated that. But they tried. It didn't work. It was awkward. It was awkward, uncomfortable to watch. I will give Miranda credit for trying, because a lot of people just throw in the towel or they blame it on somebody else and they just think, it's a wrap. But she did try. Carrie did advise or did recommend it. Maybe they go to therapy, and I think that probably would be a good idea. But I think that Miranda has mentally checked out already. And it doesn't help that she now has this infatuation with Che. So at the end of the episode, we see that she had text, or she had DM'd Che like 3 months ago. Che, whatever, had DM'd her about 3 months prior and hadn't heard back from her. So she's in her feelings, and we all know what that feels like. When somebody doesn't respond, and this just. And, too, at that age, feeling like you're too old to be even dealing with this and to be stressing over somebody, So I felt bad for Miranda, even though she's doing my boy Steve dirty. And I want to talk about that because, we haven't seen much of Steve since the reboot. And in the first episode, we see that he's got a hearing aid, right? So they kind of, I think it was a little like broad stroke to assume that everybody over the age of 50 has some kind of ailment, and like they gave him this hearing aid, and made him seem like this kind of like old man who is just doesn't have it all together. Then in the scene when they were in the farmer's market and she was on the phone with him and she was trying to tell him where she was, and the way she was talking to him, it kind of reminded me of the way that Miranda treated Steve when they first got together. She was so disrespectful towards him and just never really treated him gave him the respect that he deserved. And then, then he's lost and he forgot his wallet and he bumps into somebody. Like, the whole thing is like they're making Steve to be out this bumbling, goofy idiot. And that's not who he is. Yes, he's very lighthearted and he's happy-go-lucky and he's all those things. But those are the reasons we loved him for Miranda, because he evened her out and he calmed her down. And it feels like now that the writers are making him into this bumbling idiot, and I guess making it so that we support her cheating on him because look what she's dealing with at home. I just didn't like that because I love Steve. I think Steve is a great guy. Um, and in the movie, even when he cheated on her, he fought for her. He really recognized that he made a mistake, and he worked so hard to get her back. And I just, again, if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. But don't make Steve into this fool, for the sake of supporting what Miranda's doing. So anywho, so at the end of the event, the end of the episode, they're at this auction event at Charlotte's school, and Che shows up. She is a guest or a guest comedian, or I don't know. I don't really like Che. I don't think she's funny. The way that they're making us, the way they want us to believe she's like this stand-up comedian and she's hilarious. Like all of her jokes are one note. It's all about her coming out and her smoking weed. I mean, there's just, and I know this is not all about her, but like, if every time I see her, she's standing there with a mic telling jokes, at least let the jokes be funny. She's just not interesting to me. Miranda's into her for reasons beyond, I think, who Che is, her personality, because I don't think that, they've had a couple conversations, but she doesn't really know Che. And we saw that, they spoke, and Che was like, listen, I get a lot of DMs, I missed it. You should have tried me again. And again, that too is a little arrogant. Like, you had sex with this woman in Carrie's kitchen, she likes you. Like, I mean, Che, you're intuitive enough to know this woman's into you. And then you just so haphazardly like, oh yeah, I didn't get a DM, you should have tried me again. I don't know that Miranda would have taken that excuse from a man. The Miranda we knew, if she got bad signals or she felt like she was getting blown off, she would have taken it and she would have kept it moving. But she's infatuated with Che. And they go back to, I'm assuming, Che's apartment, and they have sex, and Miranda's saying how she's in love with her. And Che said something that I thought that I had mentioned in the last video, that you are not in love with me, you're in love with you, with me. I don't think it's Che. I think it's what Che represents, and it's the freedom that Miranda feels when she's in her company. It's the departure from her mundane routine life that she's in love with. And it doesn't hurt that every time they're together, well, I'll say every time, but a couple of times they've been together, they've been drinking or smoking. So, I think Che sees it for what it is, but because of that, she needs to tread very carefully, because Miranda's clearly going through a midlife crisis. She's got a lot of stuff going on, and I just don't think it's cool to indulge her if you know where you have no intention of getting into a relationship with her, or you know that there's a lot of things that she needs to do with her family before she can step out of that and be in a relationship with you. Like, it's a very complex case, and I believe that Che is treating it like casual sex, and it's so much deeper for Miranda. So we'll see where this goes, and I think this is the one storyline that's truly keeping me tethered to this. I mean, like I said, I'm going to watch it and I'm going to review it because I'm just such a loyal Sex and the City fan. But, the content was a little, touch and go. But this one, I think, is some real life adult stuff that you can, grab onto and just kind of get invested in the characters and the storyline. So that's Che and Miranda. So Carrie, when we started off, we see the time jump. She's obviously been writing a book for this time period, and it's about, the tone is a little bit darker because it's about love and loss and her losing big. Her publisher or editor tells her that she needs to add a little glimmer of hope at the end, because people don't want to read that kind of content from Carrie Bradshaw, because she was always the sex and fun girl. And I think that that's really interesting, because I think a lot of the criticism of the show is exactly that. We tuned back in because we wanted to see Sex and the City. We wanted to see this lifestyle and this fun and all of this shenanigans. But true to life, they wouldn't be, most women in their 50s who are married and who have kids wouldn't be doing those kind of things. But that was the draw of the show, especially with Samantha not being in it, because we'll assume that Samantha's probably still single, and maybe she would have brought that element to the show, but with her not being here, it's a little mundane, right? So I think it's an interesting parallel that that's what the publisher wants from her, and I think that's what a lot of the viewers want from the show, which is probably part of the reason why Big was killed off, because a married Carrie is not, sad to say, that interesting. So, the editor suggests that she goes on a date, and then just write like a little epilogue or something in the book to talk about hope. Um, Seema, her real estate agent, who is like the kind of pseudo Samantha, had put Carrie on some dating apps, and she agreed to go on a date. She goes on a date with this guy who's a teacher, who's also a widow, and the first date doesn't go too well. She runs into him again at this auction event, and it looks like there might be something of a spark. It was awkward for both of them. It was probably both of their first dates since their respective spouses died, and it's awkward. And this is probably the best person for Carrie to date because he gets it, and they can kind of go through this process together. I don't know if he's gonna be the new guy in her life, but this will wet her feet and get her a little more comfortable with just kind of, getting back on the scene and just, getting in the company of men again after she lost the love of her life. So that was that with that. Let me see. The other part of the show was about Charlotte and what's the woman's name? Lisa Todd Wexley, LTW. And, shows them playing tennis. That was a cute little scene with the Eye of the Tiger music in the background. You know, Charlotte, and I've seen in the comments, a lot of people they like the fact that Charlotte's storyline is just kind of vanilla, because Charlotte is vanilla. And the only thing that we saw this season was the situation with her daughter, wanting to be referred to as Rock, and, and choosing her pronouns. But it does seem like Charlotte's storyline is just really for silly jokes. I kind of get it because that's who she is, and it's just, she's a housewife, and she's a soccer mom and all this other stuff, and she's happily married, so there's not a lot to work with there, but it feels like these are filler scenes with her. I mean, that whole thing with her and Harry arguing after the tennis match, and her not apologizing, and this need that she has to give Lisa the impression that she's this perfect couple. I mean, Charlotte, you're 50 something. Like, at what point do you stop trying to impress everybody and make people believe that you are this perfect person? I mean, you did it with Trey. That's what made your relationship fall apart. You almost didn't get married to Harry because he didn't fit into your perfect picture of what it was supposed to look like. So at some point, you gotta let that go. But if that's who she is, that's who she is. Her and Harry were arguing, and it was actually interesting. The first time we've seen them really argue as a married couple. I mean, we saw them when Charlotte first converted to Judaism, and she was getting on his case because he didn't propose, and they got into a little tiff and they broke up. But since then, it's been really smooth sailing between them. And this was the first time I think we've seen them argue. So that was interesting. It's the first time I think I've seen Charlotte even curse. So that was also a first. And at the end, she ends up seeing Lisa and her husband arguing, and I guess it's like that thing, like, hey, we all have issues here. So that was cute. One other thing I want to mention is her professor. I can't remember her name. The professor and her husband are having their own scenes, and so we know she's going through this IVF journey, and she thought she was pregnant and she wasn't, and then she had told Miranda, and didn't tell her husband, and they have this scene in the car where she admits to him that she's not pregnant. I don't really care about this couple, and I don't know why they felt the need to put them in it. And I don't know if it's because we don't have Stanford and Anthony anymore, because the Willie Garson has passed away, and maybe that was going to be the fourth couple, and so they're like, let's put something else in here. But it just doesn't fit. She's got this tangential relationship with Miranda, and I don't know that that's enough for her to get her own scenes and for us to be invested in her journey. I mean, I just didn't do nothing for me. I don't find her really compelling or interesting or funny or anything. So I don't know why we're seeing scenes of her and her husband, just the two of them. But hey, maybe there's a bigger picture involved here. So that's it. It was a good episode. You know, like I said, it's moving along. We have some drama, we have some stuff. It looks like in next week's episode, Miranda and Che are going to be continuing this sexual thing they got going on. And, you know, it might cause a conflict because Che's going to get to the point like, hey, look, what are we doing here? But yeah, I mean, it was decent. I think it's getting better. I don't know how many more episodes they have, but like I said, I'm committed to watching. And you know, is it as good as the original Sex and the City? No, but you know, it's a different thing, and we're all different people now. At least we should be. Here we are, 20 something years, 20 years later, or however long it is. Um, so that's it. So let me know what you thought. Let's talk about it in the comments. Please subscribe to my channel so that you will get a notification every time I post a new video. Um, and like and comment and all that good stuff and share. So have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.